Hello, everyone. So, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Ukraine and my thoughts as to why this war is happening. So, when you look at what was happening before Russia invaded Ukraine, NATO was giving lots of weapons to that country, going all the way back to 2017 when the Trump administration gave anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. And there is an interesting article about this. It was written by John Mearsheimer. It was published by The Economist. And Mearsheimer says that in July of 2021, Ukraine and America co-hosted a major naval exercise in the Black Sea region involving navies from 32 countries. Operation Seabreeze almost provoked Russia to fire at a British naval destroyer that deliberately entered what Russia considered its territorial waters. The links between Ukraine and America continued growing under the Biden administration. This commitment is reflected throughout an important document, the U.S.-Ukraine Charter on Strategic Partnership, that was signed in November by Anthony Blinken, America's Secretary of State, and Dmytro Kuleba, his Ukrainian counterpart. The aim was to underscore a commitment to Ukraine's implementation of the deep and comprehensive reforms necessary for full integration into European and Euro-Atlantic institutions. The document explicitly builds on the commitment made to strengthen the Ukraine-U.S. strategic partnership by President Zelensky and Biden, and also emphasizes that the two countries will be guided by the 2008 Bucharest Summit Declaration. So the 2008 Bucharest Summit was when NATO first invited Ukraine to join its alliance. Unsurprisingly, Moscow found this evolving situation intolerable and began mobilizing its army on Ukraine's border last spring to signal its resolve to Washington. But it had no effect as the Biden administration continued to move closer to Ukraine. This led Russia to precipitate a full-blown diplomatic standoff in December. As Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, put it, "We reached our boiling point." Russia demanded a written guarantee that Ukraine would never become a part of NATO and that the alliance remove the military assets it had deployed in Eastern Europe since 1997. The subsequent negotiations failed, as Mr. Blinken made clear. There is no change. There will be no change. A month later, Mr. Putin launched an invasion of Ukraine to eliminate the threat he saw from NATO. So it's really interesting to see how this has been gradually intensifying over the years. And really, Russia looking at NATO as a threat on its border is really not that surprising. Imagine if Russia was doing what NATO has been doing in Ukraine, in Cuba. Imagine if Russia went to Cuba or Mexico and started doing exactly what NATO has been doing in Ukraine. The United States will most definitely act if something like that were to ever occur. So that is really not that surprising. And here's a thought that I have on this. NATO has been putting weapons in Ukraine, giving weapons to Ukraine, doing military training sessions with the Ukraine. And this has provoked Russia. Before Russia invaded Afghanistan, the United States was arming and training the Mujahideen in that country. And that provoked Russia to invade Afghanistan. And this was exactly what the United States wanted. And this is not some conspiracy theory that I made up. This was admitted to by Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was the mastermind behind a lot of America's policy against the Soviet Union. And in 1998, Zbigniew Brzezinski did an interview in which he stated, quote, "According to the official version of history, CIA aid to the Mujahideen began during 1980. That is to say, after the Soviet army invaded Afghanistan, December 24th, 1979. But the reality, secretly guarded until now, is completely otherwise. Indeed, it was July 3rd, 1979, that President Carter signed the first directive for secret aid to the opponents of the pro-Soviet regime in Kabul. And that very day, I wrote a note to the president in which I explained to him that in my opinion, this aid was going to induce a Soviet military intervention. We didn't push the Russians to intervene, but we knowingly increased the probability that they would. So the United States deliberately provoked the Soviets into invading Afghanistan. And the reason for this was because the Americans wanted the Russians to invade Afghanistan, and then the Americans would just watch as the Russians would get slaughtered by the weapons that were given by the United States, specifically by the heat-seeking missiles. And that slaughter of Soviet soldiers in Afghanistan accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union. And I wouldn't be surprised if NATO has utilized the same strategy. Provoke Russia into invading a country and then watch as NATO weapons slaughter its soldiers. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.